Welcome to Space Channel. At here we have all about space and galaxy. Thank for your watching video. Now we'll find out about Mars. The fourth planet from the Sun, Mars is a cold desert world with evidence of ancient floods. This dynamic planet has seasons, polar ice caps, volcanoes, canyons and weather. Mars is one of the most explored bodies in our solar system, and it's the only planet we've sent rovers to roam the alien landscape. Mars was named by the Romans for their god of war because its reddish color was reminiscent of blood. With a radius of 2,106 miles, 3,390 kilometers, Mars is about half the size of Earth. If Earth were the size of a nickel, Mars would be about as big as a raspberry. From an average distance of 142 million miles, 228 million kilometers, Mars is 1. "6 hours, which is very similar to one day on Earth, 23.9 hours. Martian days are called sols and mdash, short for solar day. A year on Mars lasts 669.6 sols, which is the same as 687 Earth days. Mars' axis of rotation is tilted 25 degrees with respect to the plane of its orbit around the Sun. And while here on Earth the seasons are evenly spread over the year, lasting 3 months, or 1/4 of a year, on Mars the seasons vary in length because of Mars' elliptical, egg-shaped orbit around the Sun. Spring in the northern hemisphere, autumn in the southern, is the longest season at 194 sols. Autumn in the northern hemisphere, spring in the southern, is the shortest at 142 days. When the solar system settled into its current layout about 4.5 billion years ago, Mars formed when gravity pulled swirling gas and dust in to become the fourth planet from the Sun. Mars is about half the size of Earth, and like its fellow terrestrial planets, it has a central core, a rocky mantle and a solid crust. Mars has a dense core at its center between 930 and 1,300 miles, 1,500 to 2,100 kilometers, in radius. It's made of iron, nickel and sulfur. Surrounding the core is a rocky mantle between 770 and 1,170 miles, 1,240 to 1,880 kilometers thick, and above that, a crust made of iron, magnesium, aluminum, calcium, and potassium. At the surface we see colors such as brown, gold and tan. The reason Mars looks reddish is due to oxidization and or rusting and of iron in the rocks, regolith, Martian soil, and dust of Mars. This dust gets kicked up into the atmosphere and from a distance makes the planet appear mostly red. Interestingly, while Mars is about half the diameter of Earth, its surface has nearly the same area as Earth's dry land. A large canyon system called Valles Marineris is long enough to stretch from California to New York and more than 3,000 miles, 4,800 kilometers. This Martian canyon is 200 miles, 320 kilometers, at its widest and 4.3 miles, 7 kilometers, at its deepest. Mars appears to have had a watery past, with ancient river-valley networks, deltas and lakebeds, as well as rocks and minerals on the surface that could only have formed in liquid water. Today, water on Mars is found in the form of water ice just under the surface in the polar regions as well as in briny, salty water, which seasonally flows down some hillsides and crater walls. Mars' sparse atmosphere doesn't offer much protection from impacts by such objects as meteorites, asteroids, and comets. The temperature on Mars can be as high as 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 degrees Celsius, or as low as about 225 degrees Fahrenheit, 153 degrees Celsius. Instead, they're looking for signs of life that existed long ago, when Mars was warmer and covered with water. In ancient Greek, phobos means flight, and deimos means fear. Phobos, the innermost and larger moon, is heavily cratered, with deep grooves on its surface. Oddly shaped Deimos is covered in loose dirt that often fills the craters on its surface, making it appear smoother than poikilometer-arced Phobos. Recorded observations of Mars date as far back as the era of ancient Egypt over 4,000 years ago, when they charted the planet's movements in the sky, including its intriguing retrograde motion. In more recent times, many spacecraft have visited this fascinating planet, from flybys and orbiters to probes and rovers on the surface. These deposits, made of relatively pure water ice, hold clues about Mars' climate history. Mars is a dynamic world that additionally has seasons, polar ice caps, volcanoes, canyons and weather. Mars' similarities to Earth and stark differences make it a prime target for exploration. Thanks.